Okay, so for a minute, let's forget about politics. We're not here to talk about policy. We're here to look at communication as a craft. And, this particular style, one of the most polarizing and, you have to admit, effective of our time, well, it wasn't just born, it was built, piece by piece, almost like someone was assembling a persuader's toolkit. So today, we're going to open that toolbox up and see what's inside.
So the big question is, how does a communication style like this even happen? Is it just, a personality quirk, or is it something more, something deliberately learned? Well, all the evidence really points to the second one. It's a toolkit, a persuader's toolkit that was put together over a whole lifetime with some really specific lessons from some very specific mentors. Every good toolkit needs a solid foundation, right? And for this one, the cornerstone was laid way, way before there was ever any talk of business or politics. It all starts with a core philosophy that was just drilled into him from a very young age.
Okay, so picture this. New York Military Academy. The whole philosophy there was pretty simple. Life is combat. His coach, a World War II vet, hammered home this exact mantra over and over again. And we're not just talking about sports here. No, this was the beginning of that win-at-all-costs mindset that would become a central pillar of his entire public identity.
All right, so with that win-at-all-costs foundation firmly in place, it was time to start adding some actual tools to the toolbox. And these tools came from three really key mentors, each one teaching a critical lesson in the art of persuasion. The first mentor, and maybe the most influential of them all, was his father, Fred. Now, Fred was a famously ruthless real estate developer, and he taught his son that life is a total zero-sum game. You're either a winner or you're a loser. There is absolutely nothing in between. So from his dad, he gets his very first tool. Let's call it the hammer of ruthlessness. And this is more than just being a tough negotiator. It's this mix of just fierce competitiveness and a real willingness to bend the truth if it means you win. A lesson he learned straight out of his father's playbook. Okay, so the next mentor is a bit different. It's the pastor Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote the famous book, The Power of Positive Thinking. And Peale's whole philosophy was a total game changer for Trump. It basically gave him a kind of spiritual permission slip for extreme self-confidence and, maybe more importantly, for taking the truth and, just as Peale advised, jacking it up by about 10%. And Trump took that advice and ran with it, turning it into his own signature marketing concept, truthful hyperbole. Now, the idea here is that people don't just want facts. They want to believe in the biggest, the best, the most spectacular version of reality. So this became his go-to tool, playing directly to people's fantasies with these huge, bold, exaggerated claims. And then enter Roy Cohn, the legendary, incredibly aggressive lawyer who worked for Senator Joe McCarthy. So when a young Trump is facing a lawsuit for racial discrimination, he goes to Cohn for help. And Cohn gives him this incredibly blunt advice you see here. For Trump, this was a light bulb moment, a total revelation. And right there, he gets his next tool. We'll call it the sword of counterattack. Cohn's philosophy was basically a masterclass in raw aggression, and it became a defining feature of Trump's style. The rules were simple. Rule 1, never ever apologize. Rule 2, always hit back, but twice as hard. And Rule 3, use the media as your own personal weapon. Now, the final mentor wasn't a business guy or a lawyer. He was a TV producer, Mark Burnett, the guy who created The Apprentice. And this quote from someone who actually worked on the show is so revealing, right? Burnett didn't just put Trump on TV. He carefully, meticulously built this powerful, larger-than-life character for him.
And this experience gave him his final and maybe most powerful tool, the stage of mass appeal. I mean, The Apprentice ran for 14 seasons. That's basically a 14-year masterclass in how to perform decisive leadership for millions of people watching at home. It taught him the incredible power of being theatrical and how a super simple, memorable catchphrase like, "You're fired," can literally define an entire brand.
Okay, so let's put it all together. We've got the mentors, we've got the lessons they taught, and when you combine them, what you get is a complete persuasion toolkit packed with very specific technique. So here it is. This is the full toolkit.
You've got extreme repetition and really simple language. You have that truthful hyperbole for making those grand promises. You've got personal branding, not just for himself, but also using nicknames as weapons against his opponents. It's all framed in this very emotional us versus them way. And of course, you've got Roy Cohn's never apologize rule, all wrapped up in this constant sense of theatrality and performance. This is the craft, built over a lifetime.
Okay, so now that the toolkit is fully assembled, let's watch how it actually got used. We're going to see how it moved from the world of New York real estate all the way to the biggest stage on the planet. And when you look at it this way, the progression is it's really striking. Back in the 80s, it was all about business, right? Using that truthful hyperbole to sell the luxury Trump brand. Then, by 2004, the focus shifts to media. He's using that apprentice persona to make himself a household name for success. And then, 2016. He unleashes the entire toolkit on politics. The branding, the counterattacks, the emotional framing, everything, all at once.
I mean, the connection here is just so direct you can't miss it. Think about it. The decisive, can't-be-wrong TV boss who creates drama and has a famous catchphrase. Well, that became the political candidate who says, I alone can fix it, who dominates debate stages by creating conflict, and who uses simple, repeatable slogans. It's pretty clear that one was the practice run for the other.
When you really break it down, his political campaign wasn't run like a typical campaign. It was run like a product launch. You had the memorable slogan, you had iconic branding that red hat is instantly recognizable, and you had a very simple promise that was just repeated over and over and over again. It was really the ultimate use of all those marketing tools he'd been honing for decades. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's that this communication style wasn't an accident. It didn't just happen. It was a craft, and it was built methodically, piece by piece, over many decades. He got the hammer from his father, the sword from Roy Cohn, and the stage from television. Every single piece was learned, it was practiced, and then it was perfected. And all this leaves us with a pretty provocative question, right? If persuasion is really just a learned skill, a toolkit that anyone can be taught and can master, how does that change the way you and I listen to all of our leaders? It makes you think, doesn't it? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.